So once again, when you answer a case, including in the midterm exam, please only include information in front of the case and do not look at information outside. So for example, Airbnb, when did we end Airbnb? We end at 2022, right? But right now it's 2025, meaning you already have 2023 data. But you should pretend that it doesn't exist because you are supposed to be thinking as manager of Airbnb as of 2023. Okay? Is this how your previous teachers handle case? Just check. I think who are the ones using case? Project. Does he do the external research? Case fact. What the? External research. So it depends. So just to make it clear, I'm more of the single type than the job. I don't expect you to do additional research. Now this is the outline of our discussion. If we have time, we will cover everything. First, we will compare and contrast the business models for Airbnb, hotel chains, and bed and breakfast operators. Now, if you're not familiar with what a B&B is, you can think of them as the pensioners. Would that be more familiar to you?
Yeah.
Right. Now, we will create Airbnb's business model canvas. We will list down the responses to COVID. We will talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the entire industry. We will discuss how the lodging customer has changed, and we will talk about recommendations. So I'm going to warn you, people. So even if you talk to me like 10 times today, I probably won't remember your name. Okay? So if you want to say something, please start with your name, your surname. Okay? Just tell me your surname, and then you can speak. Please don't take it personally. I hate all people. So it's not you, it's me. So let's begin by talking about the value proposition and the profit proposition of Airbnb, large hotel chains, and bed and breakfast operators. Who wants to start? The floor is yours. You can start anywhere. What?
Plaza.
Plaza.
For the value proposition of Airbnb, it offers a peer-to-peer platform that connects hosts to their brand.
That connects hosts and guests. Okay. Anyone else?
For the profit proposition of Airbnb, Airbnb received a certain percentage from
Receives a commission. Yes.
And the value proposition for large hotel chains is they market hotel as a vacation destination with additional amenities.
Vacation destinations with additional. Yes.
Value proposition for
Ladies.
Value proposition for bed and breakfast personalized service.
Want to add something? This is your opportunity to check whether this is correct.
For the profit proposition of large hotel chain, it's a combination of room bookings, ancillary services, and brand loyalty.
So room games
And again,
ancillary services.
and brand loyalty.
Although I would put the brand loyalty more on value proposition. What's your name?
Well, yes.
Galia. Okay. Okay, who else?
Alberto, sir, profit proposition for large hotel chains. Revenue from gas plus additional amenities like the spa and the dining.
Essentially replacing what you already said, right? Which is room bookings, revenue from guests, ancillary services, which is the yes,
For value propositions for traditional ownership and private
additional ownership and franchise, meaning they own the property. Yes.
companionship. For value proposition of bed and breakfast, I would like to add that they also offer scenic and home-like experience to it.
Scenic and home-like experience. Okay. Yes. One.
Box Bookser for value proposition for Airbnb service. The platform offers diverse lodging options from spare rooms to entire structure.
Yeah, data on that, like how many? The best data in the case. The data in the case will help you support it even. And let's move on to the other person. There was someone here raised hand.
Binolo, sir, profit proposition for Airbnb, transaction fee for both guests and hosts.
Actually, because the host is the commission. The information that you're looking for is in the paragraph of the case. First paragraph.
220 countries
220. How many properties?
with more than 5 million locations.
Yeah, so 220 countries over 5 million tickets, and that's extremely diverse. Right? Anyone else? Yes. Sorry, Libanya.
So for bed, value position of bed and breakfast operators, it connects the travelers with their host and the community.
So I'm afraid I cannot do that any connects.
Connects the travelers with their host and the community.
Bed and breakfast for Airbnb.
Airbnb.
We have peer-to-peer platform that next.
Another bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast is individual pension houses. So you don't connect guests at home. You are the host. Right? So this is only applicable if you're in the marketplace, like Airbnb. Right? Anyone else? It's the bed and breakfast operator main profit proposition. Yes. They
Rental payments or revenue profits.
So I think we have essentially covered everything that we want to cover, although actually not quite. There's actually more than that, but I'll just continue on what I say in my notes. So yes, it has a peer-to-peer platform that connects guests and hosts. And one of its advantages is, of course, Airbnb. Where does this have the number? Airbnb provides unique accommodation with a lot of choices and short intimate stays. There's also revenue opportunity for property owners, right? Because if you own a property, you can then make a bit of money by Airbnb. What nobody mentioned was it is technology focused, meaning it caters towards uh, people who use smartphones. Whereas this is something that the hotels do not have. Now, as for hotels, they are marketed as destinations with amenities, meaning your uh, your value proposition here is the familiarity and the quality control, right? Because if you go inside a Marriott, you have a certain degree of service that you can expect from a Marriott. Whereas if you go to an Airbnb, it depends on who your host is. There are good hosts, bad hosts. Another value proposition of hotels is that they operate internationally, meaning it's an international brand. So even if you're in a different country, you know what to expect. And finally, they have the loyalty programs. As for bed and breakfast, we have actually covered everything. It's personalized service, scenic online experience. Well, that's Airbnb make money. So there is two things to your profit position. The first one is your revenue, and then the second one is your cost. Everyone, I think, just focused on revenues. Remember, when we talk about profit, it's sales minus cost. Okay, so you're forgetting that. Now, for Airbnb, yes, they have a transaction fee, which is commission from the host as well as from the guest. And what is the cost? Well, the first one is they don't have any real estate or hospitality cost because they don't own the property. The second is that their cost is more on the cost of a technology company. I think the case mentioned. So, okay. Now, how about hotels? You mentioned that we have room bookings, ancillary services, and brand loyalty programs, which means that they have a high degree of fixed assets and therefore high costs. But forgetting, basically, you did not talk about the cost part of the equation, which means that we need to have a high occupancy rate in order to cover costs. Finally, for bed and breakfast, yes, you get revenues from guests, but the issue here is that you can only accommodate very few people, and therefore you are very vulnerable to tourism patterns. If people stop traveling, then you stop having guests, and you will suffer because you are very small. So you are very vulnerable to tourism. Let us now proceed to the business of campus. Yes.
You know, sir, key partners with Airbnb, we have hosts that offer spare rooms.
Hosts. Yes.
Value proposition, sir. Alvarado. Value proposition of Airbnb technology focus.
Yes.
For customer segments, they target age 34 under adults use cell phone as smartphones.
So I think we can just summarize this text. Yeah. They're 40. Okay, one, two.
Kailan revenue streams, transaction fees, which are percentage of that whole rate.
Do you have specific? Well, you look for specifics.
Billionaires for distribution channels. We have online platforms that
So you. Yes.
Alvarendos are key partners. The technology provider.
Yes.
Dinolos key resources. Key resources include properties listed by
Can you repeat that?
properties listed by host.
So maybe we can just call this.
And
What?
for the cost structure, transport development and
Yes.
Sir, also sir, key partners, one of them would be government, regulatory body.
Government and regulators. One,
Dinolos for customer relationships, self-service.
is it really self-service?
Yes, sir, because as stated in the case, the job of Airbnb is just to incentivize the guests.
So you're talking more about the support. And I think neighbors.
The data answer for relationships, sir, is peer reviews and
So peer reviews for guests and hosts. Because Airbnb has two types of customers: the host and the guest. Those are both customers. If you saw a hand here, then here.
Euler, sir.
Sorry.
Euler.
Oil. Oil.
For cost structure, there operations and
Operations. Do you have data?
it's in the income statement.
Correct. You have data. You are given an income statement. Oh, by the way, you have data for me, Galia.
Not yet.
You have 1,000,
Billion. So
1 billion,
1 point something, right?
1.41. What would it?
Yes. Let's start it. I think you first. Then
Adapted for value proposition is flexible and adapt. Like the home, the work from home, setup, they were able to offer like longer stay.
right.
customer segments, sir.
That's the one.
Yes. Customer segments, travelers.
Yes.
Revenue, sir.
What?
For cost structure, sales and marketing,
Give me data.
1.516.
1 point.
16.
8.4 billion.
Is that revenues or profit? Okay. I still need more stuff on key activities as well as distribution.
Dinolos key activities, platform development.
So, platform develop.
Another key activity, sir, is start host and guest retention and acquisition.
So, host and guest. Let's just call it development. And then I saw a hand here. And then I saw a hand here.
Wala on, sir, customer support service. Key activity. Key activities. Customer.
But Dinolos says it's self-service. So if Dinolos says it's self-service, that means Airbnb is not doing it as a activity. How do you respond to those? Bulawan is claiming that customer service is a key activity, but you claim that customer service is self-service. Only one person is correct.
I think it's the customer service in because the Airbnb, what Airbnb does is facilitation for hosts and guests,
Which means,
which is their main purpose, which is customers.
so it's not a key activity. Yeah. So how do you respond to that? Giving a chance to defend your position. Because if it's a key activity, it means that you're doing it yourself. Not searching. But if you're saying that they have peer-to-peer stuff, that they have self-service support, then obviously that's not a key activity. How do you respond?
Yeah.
Okay, so you withdraw. Who else?
That's your regulatory.
I'm sorry.
Then
Salute.
regulatory for the key activities there. Key activities, regulatory compliance and legal.
It's it.
When they have to register and to comply to certain.
That's an activity, yes, but all businesses must comply, right? You cannot just say, "Oh, I will not pay taxes. I will not file taxes." You have to do that. That does not make it key. That's an activity, sure, right? But when you say key, it means these are the things that you decide to do, right? Instead of, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I didn't say. I just thought that there are different regulatory compliances that they have to
But they have to do it, right? Whether they like it.
have the hotels, the large hotels.
In fact, that's what the hotels are complaining, that the hotels have to comply with specific regulations, and Airbnb does not.
Ah.
Right? That's the complaint. So I will probably have to remove that, I'm sorry. Yes.
Abalando.
Yeah.
Key sources employees.
Employees. Where in the case does it say?
They need to downsize or like they need to cut.
So does it prove that they violated employees?
Yes, sir. I think
You fired 2,000 of them, and then you're going to say, "Oh, that's our key resource." You just fired half of our people.
I know, sir, but it's a
Yeah, so take care.
yes, sir. But in the income statement, sir, the salaries, I think.
We don't have information on salary. Nope. There's salaries, but for hotels, not for Airbnb. You don't have support, right? Anyone else? Yeah.
Value proposition where we have the wide range of accommodation options. Again.
Thank you. Yeah.
Customers and distribution and market.
You would just say, or basically not earning. Right? So, here's what my notes say. Honestly, for key partners, you only really have one key partner, and that's your hosts. Why? Because if you don't have your hosts, who's going to be your guest? Right? So that's really a key part. Now, we obviously can say, yes, technology provider, we need them. Government regulators, yes, you might be able to argue. We need to cooperate. Otherwise, they will ban us. Key activities. As far as I'm concerned, the first one is to continue to develop their hosts because that is their competitive edge. The 220 countries, 5 million properties, they need more of those. The second one is to develop their application, which means that actually it's already complete. Now, as for key resources, what do they have? The first one is, of course, host network, very important. The second one I've listed here is your users, because you need guests, right? So if you don't have a lot of guests, who's going to come and host? You get my? You need the host to attract the guest. You need the guest to attract the host. You need those two. Those are key resources. Another key resource is your branding and your reputation and your app. Because Airbnb already has existing brand, and that is quite important. A lot of companies will say, yes, key resource, our employees are very important to us. But I'm going to tell you, in actuality, we can't assure them. Like, as you said, they fired 1,900 people, right? So does that seem like a key resource to you? Probably not. Now, value proposition, we actually covered that earlier, right, in the previous portion. But essentially, we can summarize it as saying they leverage the sharing. But as for customer relationship, I would say actually, I'm not sure if the support is self-service. I would actually side with you here. Okay, but you did not defend yourself. So, since you did not defend yourself, you should defend yourself. You defended yourself, you did not. So, I would normally side with you in that it's an activity that they're doing. Right? They are providing support. It's not just you access the help page. No, right? You get access to a human. However, the relationship that they have is that the guest and the host, they rate each other, the peer review. That's the important point here. Now, for distribution channel, we got that. The website. They don't actually have phone calls, but physical one. The customer segment, actually, I think Fortuna summarized it the best. We have tech-savvy young people. Not necessarily young, I guess. As long as they are tech-savvy, they are accepting of the sharing economy. Now, for the cost structure, I would argue that you would say the expense of Airbnb is a technology company and not a developer. It doesn't own the property outright. And I would support this by giving the major cost categories. So, how would I? This case actually gives us full FS. So, we can actually calculate these are all taken from the exhibits. Right? So we can actually calculate this and then summarize. And then there is actually an exhibit that talks about the cost structure of hotels and bed and breakfast operators. Do you remember this exhibit? There's wages, purchases, depreciation, marketing, rent, utilities. Now, we don't have information on all of these, but we can actually compare them. Right? 2% versus 18%. So this is a major point of divergence. And then the other point of divergence is that they have better operating income because the operating income here is 3%. This one is 6%, but this one is 21%. Right? Higher profit. And then cost of goods sold, obviously higher costs. Why? Because of your costs associated with property ownership and running a hotel. Whereas for Airbnb, they're more concerned with running a technology business. which means that the cost of goods sold is lower, 48%. Operating expenses more or less on par, around 30%. So this is how I would actually, what I would actually say under cost structure. I would say marketing 80%, I would say operating expenses total 79%. That's what I would say. That's what I hope you would say when you talk about your company. Now, as for the revenue streams, how would I say this? I would say more than just revenues. Okay? I would actually do some analysis. What kind of analysis can you do? You are given number of nights and experiences, gross booking value, meaning how much the customer paid, and then how much Airbnb recognizes revenues. Do you see these exhibits? It is there. So based on that, I can actually compute three things. I can divide the revenue by the number of bookings. I can get the number of bookings per night. And then I can get the revenue per night. Just divide one of these by. Yeah. So based on that, I can conclude that since the booking costs this much, and then they are reporting this as revenue, then the percentage is probably the commission rate, right? Agree? So more or less, they're charging around 13%, 13.3% commission. And this is what I would put under revenue stream. I would say that they're getting a commission of about 13%. You have to do some kind of analysis. I mean, this is an easy case, okay? But there is still a bit of a financial analysis that you guys can do. Booking per night, I could say that, the average night, around $160. Depending on the country. Some countries are cheaper than others. And then the amount of revenue that I can claim is around $21.32 per night. Meaning the average customer is spending $160 per night in Airbnb, but Airbnb is getting about $21.32 per night. You do actually have the information in the case. You just need to calculate it. Any questions for this section? Alright, so we will proceed with the next topic, which is what was the COVID response? Okay, 1, 2, 3. There is only 6.
First, they need to downsize the
Okay, remember please.
Albaran buffer,
Okay.
decrease their workforce by 1,903.
In downside by 1,900. This meaning key resource. Okay.
And Dinolos raised
Yeah.
$2 billion in private equity funding in debt.
So there is $2 billion
In private
in private equity.
funding and debt to support operations during
Postponed because who wants to buy any of it? Who else? Okay, let's start with that because maybe she might already say the answer. Say
It's in post cancellation policy.
in post for the
Give me the free quality to the care.
so they like capital. We funded canceled bookings during May, please. Okay, there were a lot of people here.
There was established $78 million funding help and support.
Let's care.
and support hosts that acquired long-term established Airbnb.
So, how much? 17 million. Oh. Okay. What's the
Wala. They also offered safety and cleaning guidelines for
safety and cleaning documents? What? Yes.
It expands its sharing economy model and enter the online market, online experiences market.
And I think that those are the things. So my question to you is, did it work? Wow. Well, it's still. And do you think they were helped by their structure, which they don't have any fixed tenants? They were, because if you were out, then it's during the pandemic and no one can travel, what happens? No one happy. But that doesn't mean that if there's no one coming, I don't need to maintain my building. Because the building will depreciate if you don't maintain it. So you still need to hire maintenance. You need to continue to operate it, even if you're not getting any revenues. Meaning there's still costs that are running, but no revenues. Which makes it worse for you. Now let's go to the next topic. The next topic is, let's look at the strengths and weaknesses of Airbnb, large enough chain, and better operators. I'll let you. But before we start, let me ask the group, how many of you have used Airbnbs? Yes, let's start here. Let's move this way. Okay. How many of you have used it? Tell us about your experience.
I was the one who I used to prepare to Airbnb when we went to Manila. We found like different locations with price. Yeah, I gave my relative. She can choose between the location and based on the location, based on the price.
And me,
But I was
have you ever stayed in a
yes.
which do you like?
I think it depends on the place and the kind of hotels. It's like you know that location, sir, is like say province. It's better if you would go in Airbnb. We would prefer Airbnbs. We can have like fix ourselves and enjoy the location. But if examples are going to in a city or something, so usually the hotels are even in the city proper. So we would prefer hotels.
So for urban, you prefer hotel. For rural, you prefer stay. But your experience was good. So everyone to share whether they have used Airbnb either again. Name,
Have used Airbnb before and it was not really me, but like my parents use it at home. And then we have three properties that's Airbnb here. And the experience wise, kay, it's a struggle for the host to like maintain the property itself, especially na my parents were kind of dili kay sila ganahan, sir, if ang stay is only short term. They prefer guests staying in long term.
sure, but that's what Airbnb is, short-term stays.
Yeah, and no, like kanang mas ganan sa like kanang week long, kaya sa like 3 days or 2 days, because it's
Why?
more of
Because of the
an expense on their end to like kind of maintain the place and change the sheets and everything.
So they don't like so much. All right. Anyone else want to share experiences?
Based on my experience from Airbnb, because we actually have to book in a very short time. So we actually expected that Airbnb prices would go up if just a short time booking, but actually no. Actually, the host offered us a discount because we actually have to stay in the room or the condo for the short period of time, not for the actual check-in, because the check-in will be 12 p.m. But we have to go. We got back from the island by 8 p.m. So the day was shortened. So they offered the discount, and after that we live at their property. They said that if we book again, they can give us another discount. And that's what we do after come back from the island again. We book for the Airbnb the whole weekend. So it was very.
That's more on the host, not really Airbnb. Right? It's the host that made your experience.
But I actually compared it to Agoda, the Airbnb and Agoda. It's actually much easier to converse in Airbnb by the host. In regards to Agoda, because Agoda, you have to have their really personal contacts, but Airbnb has the chat option. That unlike the Agoda.
So that's email.
Yeah,
Right. Okay, so more or less you like it. Anyone else here on this side? No? Your name here?
Guardian.
No, yeah. So, anyone on this? Have you ever used either as a guest? No. So let's now proceed with of Airbnb. I think I see you were on the first place.
A strength of Airbnb is that it can earn revenue without paying a fixed on
Does not own okay, one.
the data sir, for witnesses sir, Airbnb have consistent
Quality is it the quality control that's inconsistent? Quality. And then yes,
Weakness
okay.
hotel changes. They have significant expenses regarding ownership.
Significant operating due to ownership of. Yeah, I saw you first, and then I saw you. And then next, I look at this.
Development strength for large construction that have larger facilities. It can accommodate more than
Larger companies accommodate more guests. So one here. Then
a brand sir, strength for bed and breakfast, personalized customer service.
personalized customer service. Okay, now looking at this side, see one, two,
For the weakness of larger chain is that expansion is slow due to the need for construction for
so slow to expand because you need
Abundance. Strengths of large chains, they offer consistency. Both business and leisure travel.
So let's say we have a consistent
Aguilera for the strength in large scale. They have strong brand recognition.
strong yes.
weakness for bed and breakfast, and smaller facilities and fewer amenities.
Less amenity than
Smaller facilities.
smaller facilities, which means
Yeah.
less. Yes.
Weakness for bed and breakfast, sir. So less amenities and with less limited profitability.
Yes. One, two.
As for that, we more on owner dependency.
More on
Owner dependency.
owner.
Concern for strength are in Airbnb, they have diverse operating with several options.
First, so, anyone else? Does Airbnb have any weakness? Yes.
Answer, strength for Airbnb's um, smaller operating cost.
You already said that. It's not all about the which means
That's right. Its business model is more resilient.
Admin, sir, a weakness probably for Airbnb is safety concerns for both guests and hosts.
why is that the same?
More likely dependent on the host when the space for the guests.
Yes.
Strength for Airbnb's access. A strength for Airbnb would be its high scalability that can easily expand to other countries or regions.
Scalable. One, two,
Airbnb is expensive. Pay to pay a reader discount
three,
for 2 months.
two, three, things.
Family service. For bed and breakfast, weaknesses is reliant on seasonal demand. Depends on that reason.
Like seasonal. Dependent. One more.
That's one plus of bed and breakfast is the lack of advanced booking technology.
Okay.
And except upon delivered Airbnb and large hotel
So you're not Airbnb, then
spend.
you meant Airbnb and saying so. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so we have identified the strengths and weaknesses. Here is part of my notes. I agree with Orlando. Airbnb has no operating costs because it doesn't the hotels. And then I agree with both diverse offerings with several options, which gives you the ability to have cheap and unique accommodations. I also agree with Orlando when she says has a more resilient business model. I also agree with Ross when he said that there is price scalability. In addition, my notes say that the app is available anytime, anywhere, compared to a hotel, or even a global. Finally, Airbnb is also perceived to be the market leader, right? And there's an advantage in being seen as the market leader, especially this type of business where you have network effect. How about for hotels? What are the main advantages? First, they have the brand and the loyalty programs. Meaning, if you really like the brand Marriott, then maybe you will patronize Marriott no matter where you go. You also have the consistent quality and service, as Kapag said, but I think what was left out is that there's also safety. Because, as was mentioned by Kapag, there are safety concerns for Airbnb and for guest hosts. But on the hotel, there's no such thing because there's a security guard. They actually check your things when you enter the hotel. So there's actually more safety in the hotel. Another advantage not mentioned here is that hotels can tap into corporate accounts. Now, what do you mean by corporate accounts? Means that the companies, not it's businesses that are buying the service. For example, for business travel, right? The businesses prefer to have assistants. So it's an advantage to be able to do B2B compared to B2C. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Because B2B probably complains less and spend more. Whereas, customers are subject to the Pareto principle, which is 80% of your complaints is going to come from 20% of your customers. You have to fire those customers. Now, for bed and breakfast, list three advantages. The first one is that it is a unique local accommodation, so meaning personalized service. Second, there is intimacy, meaning home life, home atmosphere. I think this was brought up here, not needed here. And then finally, it might be the only choice in rural areas, right? Now, as for weaknesses, first on my list is maybe unsafe. What if the guest is crazy? What if the host is crazy? What if both are crazy? Second, what did the guest say? I don't like black people. So black. I don't like Indian, they stink. Okay? Now, maybe Philippines we don't care. But in the US, it's called what? It's discrimination. You cannot discriminate. Not allowed. Although I believe there is still discrimination in the US against women. They will not elect a woman as president.
Yeah.
They prefer to have Trump part 2 than to have. So, they're still discriminatory, although they have laws against it. Third is you have questionable legality for Airbnb because there are some businesses who are operating Airbnb. Technically, if you're a business, you're not supposed to be a host. Right? Fourth is, let me ask you, how easy is it to copy their business model? We already discussed the business model, right? How easy is it to copy? It's a marketplace model. Isn't that hard to duplicate? No, the only thing hard is to get the host and the guest, the network. But other ones, I can't copy. Meaning, there's competition risk. Finally, they cannot match the hotel amenities because it really depends on the guest. Weakness for the hotel, we covered that. There's a high cost structure, and this causes the price to be high. So if the hotel wants to compete, they need to offer discount. And then we also covered everything for benefits. We are very dependent on the local travel trends, which is mentioned by Ribano, which is dependent on seasonal demand. And then one thing Amarato said is the cost structure only allows them limited profitability, right? Because you were referring to Minolos with less facilities and less guests. It's owner dependent, which means that it fluctuates a lot. Okay? So let's proceed to the next topic, which is how has the lodging customer changed? Which means before, what are the types of customers who are booking accommodation and how has it changed? I can tell you, when I was a child, 40 plus years, maybe 40 years, I learned that's the 40 years. My parents told me, you should never go into a car of a stranger. You should never eat food that the stranger gives to you. You should never go into a stranger's house. You should never let a stranger get into your shop. You should never let a stranger come to your house. Did your parents tell you the same thing? Did you
Yes.
believe them? What are we doing now? Do you have strangers bring your food to you? Yes, you eat food given by strangers. Do you go into a stranger's car?
Yeah.
Do you sleep in a stranger's house? Yeah. And some of you with Airbnb, you let stranger come to your house. They're a serial killer. So, that should summarize to you how has the logic customer changed. Will you still give that advice to your kids? Or will you tell them, if stranger gives you food, you should accept it and say thank you? Think about it. So, who wants to start? How has the logic customer changed? 1, 2.
Because consumers had de-emphasized ownership.
So, we wanted to say de-emphasize. Meaning they are more with the sharing economy, right?
Yes.
Which is the one I was ranting about. My parents told me I'm not doing it anyway. And I saw you, was it? Well, Pulau, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Still formulation man siya bigat
Okay, she called your. Who else wanted to say? Yes.
Consumers now prioritize experience over traditional accommodation.
Customers prioritize experience.
Yeah, that's what. Customers now rely on reviews and reviews.
Customers rely
Reviews and reviews.
reviews. Anyone else? 1, 2.
Their desire for personalization.
Desire. Name, please.
Aguilera.
Go next.
That the use of that of telephone or physical.
So let's make it more general. Using apps to instead of not internet phone.
Our hosts now build their finances around the anticipated revenue from it.
Yes, we're talking about the customer here. Okay, so I think we have covered the important points. The first one is that the focus is no longer with ownership, right? The focus is more on sharing. Sharing with others, even though our parents advise us against it. And then the second is that, yes, there is an emphasis on experience over accommodation, although I think that is still highly dependent on the person. And I guess when you travel, do you look for experiences or do you prefer comfort? It depends. It depends. Some of you might prefer experiences. Some of you might prefer cheap, you know. We also desire, yes, personalization, and yes, we rely on peer reviews and ratings. And yes, we use apps and internet bookings, and we are now very comfortable with using our smartphones. Whereas before, people don't have smartphones. I mean, can you imagine going to the mall without a smartphone with your friend? And then where are you going to meet? Can you imagine? You don't have to imagine that happened before. Ask your parents how they did it. Like, how did they find each other in white gold, right? Or it worked out. Right now there's the phone, so you can just messenger or WhatsApp, whatever. That's not available before you were born. So you have to think about how the people have changed. So having summarized these changes, do you think that Airbnb is now in a better position to take advantage?
Yes.
Why do you say that? Because it's catering to the exact right customers, right? It's catering to tech savvy people. It's catering people to use apps, right? It's catering to, it's using the sharing economy. It's doing all the things that the customer of the future is looking for. So, this is our last part. First, let us list down the risks for Airbnb, and then we will come up with recommendations. Now, the first one I saw was, what was it? Pulawan.
Regulatory risk.
Regulatory, explain.
Since you said that it is over 120 countries, so there might be a risk that when they do decide to go to another country, that they have to again comply with regulations of that country. So it might have a hard time for them. There might be a possibility that it does not meet with the regulations of that specific.
I saw you, and then you,
Risks.
Alvarado.
One of the risks, the competition.
Competition risk.
Because since the business model of Airbnb isn't paid, that's why it's now the industry is. I mean, the business can be paid easily.
Then there was one here.
Another risk is the economic uncertainty there. Like, for example, inflation or the household debt, as stated in the case, which could impact consumer spending on travel.
Sure, they are subject to that, although not as much as hotels. Name? Sorry.
Aguilera.
Anyone else? Yes. Pulawan.
Security risk.
Security risk. Explain.
For hosts, there might be, in center, there might be times where the host or the guest will be crazy. So there's that.
Yes.
Maybe a technological distraction. Yeah.
So no risk of technological disruption. I think we listed the risks. We'll talk about the solutions. One recommendation would be given these risks. Yes.
Regularly assess the Airbnb's business model. Assess if it's relevant, and then change it.
How would you change it? It's not easy to change. You cannot just build that, right? So they can, in fact, yes, regularly assess the business model, but what can they do about it? I think is a very big question, right? It's not easy to do. You're really entrenched in this. Anyone else? Yes.
Maybe maybe continue with the during economic downturns, continue funding support for the host
Giving continuous support
and support for the business.
for hosts during this economic downturns. I think is the third we used. Sorry. Maybe.
Maybe they can still try a block
It's really work in the business or functions or accommodations or prices are very high. So basically the topic that some interpreters have the non-proper usage of language.
So it's not really a push, but it's more on the you develop your posts. Yes, one and then two.
Magkapanyan sila. Probably create more like stricter host verification and guest verification jobs.
Post and yes.
Enhanced security.
That's production. It crashed us right as I was typing the word raise. And there was
Identity, responsive, offering.
complaints name. Anyone else? What should they do? How do they deal with technological disruption? Because okay, let's look at whether your recommendations are addressing the risk. Regulatory risk, we're not addressing it, right? There's nothing that recommends anything. For competition, I would say it's addressed by the support for host. It's also addressed by the host network. Now, economic uncertainty is the support for host. Security risk is addressed by the brain system as well as the stricter verification. How about the technological disruption? We're not addressing that. How do we address it? How will Airbnb address the risk that its technology will be disrupted by new technology?
Regular platform agents.
Regular name? Sorry?
Out of work.
How about regulatory risk? What do we do with it? Okay, I think it's time to close the case. Now, here first, regulatory risk. How do you deal with regulatory risk in which we must comply with local regulations? This is actually a major risk for Airbnb because there are societal issues to Airbnb. Right? If it becomes profitable for me, the owner, to lease Airbnb to short-term stays, because the rate is higher to be a short-term stay, then I would prefer to have Airbnb. I will not lease it to tenants. Here, what happens is that cost of housing goes up, right? What happens even more is that if there is new housing, the landlord will buy the house to Airbnb, which causes again more housing issues for the people. Some cities do not like that, and they might ban Airbnb because of that. So how do you guard against this risk? You must lobby. You must lobby the government for favorable regulation. You must tell them no. Short-term stay is good for economy, something like that, right? Lobby. Now, how do you deal with the reputational risk of having, poor security? I think you've covered that. Background checks. The previous class said that they should have a security team on on the 220 countries and 5 million property. Okay, it's not very reasonable, right? So at least the security verification is a little bit reasonable. Now, as for the competition risk, there are many ways to address that. First, you must continue to attract more hosts because that's important. That's a key resource, attract hosts. And then the second one is to probably partner with a fleet. What do I mean? I mean that Airbnb can list hotel rooms, is what I mean. Because Uber, actually it's Grab. Grab actually partners with taxis. Right? So why not Airbnb also act as a platform for hotels? Meaning you turn the competitor into one of your hosts. And then you can also refit your offering to offer B2B, right? Because that's a very profitable segment. And then to address the technological risk, they can invest in the platforms and the technology to maximize the lead that they have. Finally, I think nobody mentions it, is financial risk. Meaning risk that they will have less profit. Why? Because the cost goes due to maybe inflation, whatever. How will you address it? You might have to control the cost with the various cost accounting principles that you have studied. And you have to consider, do you think a company like Airbnb still needs to do a lot of sales and marketing? They're already, do they really need more? And then basically. So what happened? Airbnb continues to be blamed for causing cost shortages. So what happens is that they are no longer allowed in New York City. And other cities are increasing restrictions. I don't know about your experience, but apparently there are some systems where you don't even talk with another human. Like everything is done automatically. You check in yourself and then you just drop the key and drop it. Something like that. It's banned in Italy. And Barcelona is going to ban it by 2024. So now they must try hard to lobby the government of Barcelona to allow them to. Over the past few years, customers have been complaining that the host has been charging cleaning fees, like higher than the cost of the stay. Because initially, when you search for listing, you only see the stay, you don't see the adjustments. So they use that as a way to like cheat, right? So now Airbnb is trying to be more transparent, meaning what you will see now is the total all-in cost. And they have removed like 300,000 low-quality listings. Business is actually booming. So their 2023 revenues exceeded 9.9 billion and earnings is more than double. So it's now 4.8 billion. They will report their 2024 result this Thursday. Don't know what it is yet, but this Thursday we will know. We don't know what it is, but the quarter 3 income has increased at 10%. So, do you have any questions? If there are no questions, we'll now hand out the box to those who participated. 1 to 11. 3 to Alvarado. 1 to Bulao. 1 to Kapitnan. 2 to Binolos. And 1 to Rebano. And I will see you again face to face when we discuss case 2. I hope you will apply it analysis. Go to the numbers. No? See you then, and the deadline for the video is the end of this